What's up, everybody? This is the fifth episode of Kofe Talk, a podcast in which we connect you with an individual from the sports community. Our next guest is the Senior Director of Creative Solutions at Clemson, Tyson Hutchins. What's going on, dude?
Not much. How's it going? I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I greatly appreciate you jumping on. I know you guys are probably running and just getting back from hopefully a little bit of a break.
Yeah, it never seems like there's a long enough break, but definitely try to take a breather here in January. But no, we're getting back to it here before long. So
Good. So Tyson, the reason I started this podcast, just to give you a little bit of background, is I really want to highlight individuals working in sports who have seen success and have really climbed that ladder. I think you hold a position that's very highly touted within college football. Clemson obviously was a pioneer in digital storytelling, and I think you took over and have done an unbelievable job stepping into, the shoes of Nick and continuing greatness and creating content at a very high level. Tell me a little bit more about your job and what you're doing on the daily.
yeah, you bet. Obviously, first and foremost, Clemson has had a phenomenal presence on social and digital and everything that they've done there, far beyond the time that I got to Clemson. You mentioned Nick Conklin, who I just can't speak highly enough as my predecessor in this role, and then my boss as well, Jonathan Gant, as well as now our Associate Athletic Director of Communications, Jeff Callan. Just a lot of really, really talented people who have built a lot of great things before me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to just kind of continue that foundation that they built on. For us, where, as you mentioned, I directly oversee the Clemson FB accounts, so that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all of those things, as well as I oversee video production for that team specifically, as well as the athletic department as a whole, since that's kind of my background and how we're structured. And so,
Very cool.
as you can imagine from that, it comes with a lot of nuance and different things that we encounter all the time, but it's a great opportunity. I'm grateful to be here.
For sure. And yeah, I love how you give credit to all those names, because like you said, they've been doing things at such a high level at Clemson, and it's been really cool to see. You bring up Jeff Callan, and there's no shot he remembers this, but when I was a junior in college, with 2015, I reached out to him, and I was working in our SID department. I went to a D2 school, and we didn't really have much of a digital presence at all. And I got to connect with him, and he had such an incredible impact on what I've decided to do with my career. Fact check me on this. Your first game with Clemson, was it in the midst of the college football playoff?
Yes. Yeah. And so it's a crazy story. And so technically my second day of work was the Fiesta Bowl last year. And so wild story. So I was working at Brigham Young University. We actually played a bowl game in Hawaii, like on the 23rd of December or something like that. Fly back to Utah, and then immediately fly, like literally the next day, fly to Phoenix. And my second official day of work was the Fiesta Bowl. And so that story is true. Wild way to kick one off. Doesn't get much better than that. A great college football game in the history of college football games as well. And so it's a memorable memory. That's for sure. No question.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think like most people don't even get the chance to work in a college football playoff, and then that being your second day on the job had to be quite the experience. How was it like being thrown into the fire? I mean, like, what were your duties? Obviously, from like a strategic standpoint, it wasn't like you were coming up with how the game day operation was going, which I'm sure you're more inundated in now. But what was it like? Were you just kind of like run and gun at that point?
Oh yeah, very run and gun. And to be honest, luckily I was, at the time I was overlapping with Nick still. Nick hadn't left Clemson yet. And so I was kind of just along for the ride to a certain extent. I think I did like the Instagram stories and like raw
Okay.
videos on my phone that day, and so a little bit of a lighter workload than my responsibilities now. But yeah, no, and to be honest, I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity. Like you mentioned, there are very few people who get that opportunity, and I'm really grateful that I did, because in my mind, I knew it's likely that Clemson will be back in this situation,
For
and
sure.
I want to make sure that I kind of have that experience, even if it is just kind of observing. And I thought going into the CFP this past year, I gave that game a lot of thought and how we went about things and what we did, and so while it was very much like an along for the ride type of deal, I'm grateful for it. You're right. It was a very lucky second day of work, no question about it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of preparation that goes on behind the scenes before you even get to that day.
Oh yeah, no question. And obviously hats off to Jonathan and Nick, who had the content plan in place, and I
Yeah.
showed up and got set the document and was like, yeah, I can do my part here. And so
Sure.
was really lucky to inherit that from those guys. But yeah, the amount of preparation that goes into those games is I'm not sure many people understand just the scale of it.
For sure. So tell me a little bit more about, taking over the creative reins. Nick did such an unbelievable job. And like I said before, he helped revolutionize digital storytelling in the college football space. Was there pressure walking into those shoes?
I mean, from Jonathan and and everyone at Clemson always did a great job of making sure that I knew that they didn't expect me to be Nick, that I was my own person, which I'm grateful for. But on a personal level, yeah, for sure. Like I
Yeah.
always looked up to Nick and was such a big fan of everything that Clemson was doing. And Clemson has had just a great track record of incredibly talented full-time people, but as well as students who have done so many really great things. And so yeah, obviously I felt a pressure to want to make sure that I was building on the foundation that they had worked so hard for. And I still try to do that to this day. It's something that I'm readily aware of all the great things that Clemson has done, and I hope to continue that.
The reason I talk on that a little bit is I think our jobs in creative are so unique and similar to a coach in a sense, because our work is so out there that it's tangible, right? Like everybody can see it. It's very subjective work. And to me, I think in certain jobs you can probably hide in the corner a little bit, but in this type of position, in this type of role, I mean, there's no hiding. It's like you're creating really dope shit or you're not creating dope shit.
Yeah, no doubt. And honestly, it's like one of the greatest things, also probably one of the most intimidating things. Like I
For
think
sure.
about myself and my journey, and like if our work isn't that way, if it's not so forward outwardly facing, I probably never have this opportunity. And so
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that it is that way, but it does come with the pressure of that, right? There's no shying away from like what is or is not happening, or what's being produced and what isn't. And so yeah, it's definitely a nuance to this business that we're in, that a lot of folks probably may not have to encounter at quite the scale that we do, as well as the reaction of millions of followers to everything that we do as well. It's
Yeah.
a unique one.
So today I was looking back and I went to see your video when you first got announced. You put together a video where there's a
Yeah.
package that showed up at the door. It got like 150,000 views.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I still don't know how that happened or what that was about. Honestly, I was just like, this is fun. Like I'll put a little something together. And obviously I was excited about the opportunity, but yeah, I did not expect that to happen. Like I remember my first day of work when I got to the Fiesta Bowl, there was like a gathering, like a little area where the staff could go and whatnot. And I
Mhm.
remember like our deputy athletic director being like, "Hey, I saw your video," and I was like, "Oh, I did not anticipate you seeing that." And so, yeah, no, it was, I don't know, it was fun. I look back at it and laugh a little bit, but no, it was fun for sure.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show like who you are, right? I think, and I was talking to someone last week about this. So many times in sports, I think people forget how cool our jobs actually are, and we get to create. And I don't think you should ever lose the fun behind creating, right? Like I think most of us got into it because it was some type of passion. And just because it's your job now doesn't mean you shouldn't have fun with it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We're definitely spoiled. There's no question about it that we're spoiled and getting to do the things that we do. And you can look up the amount of job applications for some of the things you get posted that you for some of the jobs that you see posted, and it really becomes evident how many folks are trying to get into the field. And so I personally feel really lucky to do what I do for sure.
You were at BYU previously before Clemson. You were there for about 3.5 years. Unbelievably talented. So I know that Clemson was not the first job offer that was thrown your way. Can you talk to me a little bit on why you stayed? Was it that you knew you wanted to go to Clemson? Like I'm just trying to understand and get a good grasp on like your patience in taking that next step.
Yeah. Well, I was a student at BYU, and I think part of it was um, just the amount of trust that BYU gave me. You know,
Okay.
they really, I had some unbelievable mentors at BYU, Stuart Call and David Almadova, who really just allowed me to work on my craft and just kind of learn and grow and be part of them. And they would let me sit in on, the corporate sponsorship meetings and the marketing meetings and just kind of really learn a lot about college athletics. And I'm so grateful for that. I think in this business, there's a lot of movement. I think it's become really custom that there's a lot of
Yep.
movement, and I totally respect anyone who needs to move for opportunities and whatnot. For me personally, I'm so grateful for that opportunity to kind of be enthralled in multiple seasons worth of creative as well as just for my career of being able to experience that, because it was really such a great opportunity for me where, to be honest, I will openly say I was not very good like at the start when I was at BYU, but those folks there and the administration really were awesome and bought in and were really supportive in my career development. And to be honest, I never really wanted to leave BYU. As growing up a BYU fan and attending school there, I used to joke around with my wife. I'd say, I don't think I ever want to leave unless like Clemson offers me a job. And
Ta-da.
I legitimately used to make that joke. And like,
Yeah.
here we are, which is crazy and wild to think about. And I'm super grateful for that. Um,
Well, you manifested that one.
yeah, I seriously, I did. And it was something that I had thought about, because I did enjoy the folks I worked with at BYU so much
Mhm.
and the place and all of that. My list was pretty short of like places where I would consider going or moving to or different things like that. And for me, Clemson was always like the gold standard in social media. And so when I had the opportunity, I felt like it was the right time and the right place, and it was just too unique of a circumstance not to pursue it. So that's a little bit of a background there, I guess, on how it
Yeah.
came.
I really love that story because I think like you said there's a lot of moving around and regardless of how you progress, I've moved around quite a bit and I think everybody has kind of their own story, but for you being able to put your feet in the ground and build a foundation there like Nick did for Clemson or whatever it may be, and I'm sure BYU, you were able to, like you said, wear a ton of different hats. And I think early in your career, you should chase that type of opportunity in being able to wear a multitude of different hats and get different experience in different areas, because that's how you really discover like what you're passionate about and what you really want to do.
Yeah, no question. I think you're definitely right in that. And one of the things that I think about a lot that opportunity afforded me, and something that I try and tell people when they ask about it is, you know, it's like you say, there's a lot of movement and there are a lot of young people in this field. And I think it's kind of leans predominantly young for the most part.
For sure.
And it's a long career. There's a lot of time out there. There's a
A
lot
lot
of
of road.
years. Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of road ahead of me and all of us. And I think about that and just like that if you can, and if you find yourself in a situation where you can really put your head down and just like work really hard for like you should always work hard. I don't mean to say that, but like kind of tune out the noise, I guess, and just like
Yeah.
focus on the craft to a certain extent. I really feel like that's what I was able to do at BYU, and man, I'm grateful for it. I think it set me up really well.
Yeah, because we constantly move so fast in sports, right? You're bouncing from season to season and everything moves so fast. One thing that I was able to do during the pandemic for a second was like press reset and really like hone in on some of like the tactical pieces of my craft, like uh lighting situations and really diving into like the minuscule pieces of our work that you can shoot a camera, but like how do you take it to that next level?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that if you ever have the opportunity to hit that reset and to do some of those things, I think it's worth the opportunity to do it, because we do move quickly. And so anytime you have the chance to do that, or the time that the opportunities that you have to just kind of focus on one thing for an extended period of time, I think it's really valuable.
In that transition from BYU to Clemson, the culture of the schools are very, very different. Have the way that you created content and you're building strategies, has that changed a ton, or are you still selling a lot of the similar football pieces to recruits, facilities, total person program, whatever you guys call it over there?
Yeah, and it's similar in a lot of ways and also different in some ways. I think we here at Clemson have a really dialed in focus on the purpose of our content.
Hmm.
You can make cool stuff, and that's all well and fine, but at the end of the day, we're trying to tell the story of what it's like to be a Clemson Tiger. And so we have a really kind of narrow focus on that, and
Yeah,
what we try and do. And I think that comes through in the content that we produce, and the style and how we go about things. And so that is something that we try and uniquely focus on, is answering that question, which is obviously big for recruiting and things like that. As far as like how we go about things and staff, it's actually really similar. I had some conversations with Nick early on, years and years ago,
yeah,
and about how Clemson goes about things and how they structure the department. And we built a lot of those things similarly at BYU, which I think is probably what actually made me an appealing candidate, is that we had done a lot of really similar things. And
yeah.
so in a lot of ways it's different, but in many ways it's very similar.
I'll get a little bit more tactical here. Spring ball is a few months away. What are you doing right now to prep for that, so when spring ball does come around, you're ready to hit the gas?
That's a good question. We got a few things in the works that we're excited about, first and foremost. So I'll say that. You know, one of the things that we're just trying to focus on, as well is making sure that we're telling Clemson's unique story. And so
Mhm.
we're talking about just some different ways that we can go about that, reintroducing some things that maybe we haven't done as much of, or haven't been able to do as much of during the pandemic, and things like that. And so we're really just trying to think about those things, as well as, some of the unique stories that we want to tell.
For
We're going to
sure.
have new faces and different people who are going to play different roles, and how we can go about showcasing them. And so it's a wide net at the moment, but we'll get it kind of narrowed in as we get closer.
I have to ask this question because I was at Georgia Tech previously, and I've been with Coach Collins there and at Temple before that. And he was so highly involved in everything branding and everything creative. Is it similar there with Dabo, or what's that relationship like?
Coach definitely makes sure that if he has a feeling about something, that he makes sure that we're aware, and
For
everything
sure.
like that. And one of the with that said, one of the great things that I'm able to benefit from is so many of the relationships and the trust and all of those things were established
Right.
years ago, right? And so in that sense, I think Clemson is really in a good spot and far ahead, with just everyone in the building and everyone at Clemson kind of knowing what we do and why we exist. And you don't really have to like pitch it to anyone. Like everyone knows like why it's beneficial and why it exists and all these things. And that's a major
It takes the
credit
selling
to,
point away.
yeah, exactly. Like I remember, there are times in careers where we have to like sell why we should do something,
For
and
sure.
why we should do something. And I've realized that, at Clemson, there's a lot less low level selling. It's kind of like a given that like cameras are going to be around, that we're going to capture certain things, which I'm grateful for. And I feel really lucky for that. And so it's we have some great people in place, as well as on the football specific like side of things with recruiting. We work really close with our director of recruiting, Jordan Sorrells, and DJ Gordon, and some of the other folks who are kind of more embedded within the actual football operations. And so that's one thing I really love is that we are by no means operating on an island, or it's not just like creative folks, but we get a lot of input from a lot of different people. And so it's a good situation.
NIL is coming up. What's your thought on NIL and how this can impact players? You obviously have a guy like Trevor Lawrence on the roster that has the exposure to maybe pull in some national dollars down the line. And I don't think that's going to be everybody, right? I think that's the small percentage. Give me your thought processes on NIL and how you guys are prepping for that.
Yeah. One thing we've always been dedicated to is doing what is best for the student athlete. And so this is no different. The same way that we make sure that they have academic advisors and food to eat and great facilities and all of those things, we're going to do the same thing here with making sure that we prepare them accordingly. And so at this stage, given all of the uncertainty and whatnot, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of preparation and making sure that they know the resources that we offer to them, and putting certain resources in place. And so that they can leverage what they can leverage right now. And then maybe that'll change in the future. Who knows? And so it's a lot of that, of just trying to figure out how we can go about being a resource and really also allocating our resources. We currently have resources allocated in a certain way to make certain accounts and certain things as big and as powerful and as strong as possible. Do we need to reassess those? Do they fit the same way? Do they fit differently? So we're obviously exploring all those things and trying to figure it out as we wait for kind of a final word on exactly what it'll all look like. But with that said, we're doing everything we can to make sure that everyone from our recruiting staff to our coaches to our current athletes to prospective student athletes kind of know the opportunities and what we can do to help them with that.
There's not a lot of times in college football that something like NIL comes about where there can be a complete shift in the whole entire space. And me being from the J1S side, I mean, we're so excited because, our main focus is branding. Obviously, same thing with you is, you're worried about the brand. So it's exciting for us because it puts a little bit more value in what we do and how we can help the student athlete, because now we're not just making content for them. There's true value behind it, where they had to wait until they got to the pro level or graduated to really capitalize on the brands that they built. I have a couple fun questions and then I'll get you on your way. But first one I have is, if you can bring 3 pieces of equipment to a game and that's all you have, what would those items be?
Are camera and lens 2 different pieces of equipment, or do they count as one?
I would say I'd have to say that's 2 different pieces of equipment, but like, you have unlimited batteries. You don't have to worry about that kind of shit.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay. So I
need my battery charger.
Yeah. It can get hairy quick with some things like that. That's super easy for me in that case. I'll go, my phone, cell phone. So iPhone, and then I'll go Sony A7 III, not the A7S III, the 3,
Yep.
because I need to be able to rely on a lot of picture taking capabilities as well. And then we'll probably go like a Sony 7200 G Master, the f2.8 lens.
Okay.
I think,
7200.
yeah, I think that's what it would be. I like, my mind's working with a lot of like how I would go about it. But yeah, no, those, I feel good about those three. So that's what we'll go with.
I like that answer. I have the A7 III. I bought it last year and I fell in love with this camera.
It's great.
So I'm totally with you there. I love that you're being resourceful with your phone. And then the only thing I was debating between is the 70 to 200 and you do 24 to 70.
Yeah, no, see, that's tough. And like, I'm thinking from the football lens of things. Like if I'm
Right.
going to a basketball game, probably 24 to 70.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah.
Yeah. Football, you need a little bit more reach.
No question. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I have to go 7,200.
Football, you have to work a ton of hours, right?
Yeah.
And you're always working and all those things. What do you do outside of football to kind of recharge your batteries and get rejuvenated and back into a more efficient creative space?
It's a good question. I think there are some of the basics, like I like to play golf, things
Okay.
like that. But something that has been a little different in my life in the last year at least is I have a son now, so
Congratulations.
that's exciting. And so there was a time where I was working and my wife was working, and so when I was at BYU, I would just work because I like could, and like
For
she
sure.
was working too, and so it really wasn't. I don't want to say work-life balance didn't exist, but work-life balance didn't exist, and
Not
so
the same way.
now I really enjoy the opportunity that I have to go home and uh, shoot baskets with my son on his little Tykes hoop before he goes to bed and things like that. And so family time has definitely become more of an emphasis lately, and I'm grateful for it. I think it's a really good thing.
So last question. Who is someone that you would like to see on this show?
It's a really good question. Can I give you two? Can I
Sure.
give you two?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say first and foremost is Jeff Hannell. So
Okay.
Jeff works at Auburn. I think I don't remember. I'm not gonna try and guess his title because I don't know what it is. But I think of Jeff as like the grandfather of he's gonna be mad I called him grandfather, but like kind of the OG video guy.
Okay.
He's awesome. Like he's been around and done a lot of different things, and he is older. He's older than I am, and I so appreciate his like wisdom and how he talks about things, and just
Yeah.
has done a lot of really great things. So I'm going to say him
Okay.
first and foremost. And then I'm going to say Cameron Good as well.
Okay.
Cameron used to work for the Chicago Bears, and now does a lot of freelance work, probably stuff that a lot of folks listening have seen for ESPN, and I think he's done some stuff for like Bleacher Report and different things at different times. And so just kind of a someone that I look up to creatively, but also just a really good guy to learn from about how to build your own business and things like that I find really interesting. And so I'm gonna give those two guys a shout out.
Those are really good answers. I'm excited. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna reach out to those guys and probably send your clip along and try to get them up here on the show. I'm trying to make sure that I expand into a network of just unbelievably talented humans just like across the board, right? Like there's so many people in sports that that work behind the scenes, not just in creative, but in academic advisors and facilities, and there's so many different jobs. So I'm trying to really tap into all areas. So I appreciate you passing those names. And Tyson, thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and really excited to see what you continue to do there at Clemson.
Cool. I appreciate it.